Thank you so much, Melika. There are some clapping hands already coming up on the screen. Thank you very much. Very clear and succinct presentation. Maybe if you close your screen, then we can see everybody in the gallery again. So that's super. Thank you so much. Good. So the floor is open for questions to Melika on the various things she presented, looking into the land tenure arrangements in Northern Benin, and especially looking into women differences of perception between men and women and migrants and non-migrants. And I'm sure that others also have put up a number of questions to ask. Who wants to be first?
Okay, I'll go.
Peter goes first. Good, Peter, you have the floor.
Melika, thank you so much for the nice presentation and then the application of the mental model. You said something which actually caught my attention, that the RDC has been paused, and it kept me thinking. So how does your study actually, first question is that what caused the position of the RDC, and how does your study contribute to it or provide a counter argument that may advise the government on maybe continue with the RDC?
Can I answer? Or you want to collect first all the questions?
Just go ahead and respond that. Yeah, I had the same question. I was also wondering whether, maybe that's an additional one on Peter, is how good are the chances that it will be continued in its current or revised form?
Yeah. So the way we understood it, because I will be honest with you, even when we went on in Benin, I think it was in September, yes, that I presented the result and they were like, but do you know that the RDC process has stopped? And when did you collect your data? And I was a bit like, okay, I didn't know that. So I asked them to explain to me why it was paused and like if they were, because there were some of the government representatives in the room. And the way they explained it was like there were a lot of conflicts around this RDC, and this establishment of this land title was even more favorizing, let's say, the fact that people were selling the land in a, I would say, harsh way. And also they were like a non-control of how the land were being sold. And so they decided to pause it for now to regulate all of this, because even among like the administrative way to get it was a bit a long process and also cost effective and time effective. And for those that the people that I serve in the village, they told me that they can even spend like more than 1 year, but the process is still ongoing. So you see, it's also about all those administrative reasons that it was paused also, and for the reason of the land selling, because it was increasing land market and so within the area. So I think that it will continue, because the way they explained to us, they want to, let's say, reform it and maybe find a better way to implement it within the area. And also one thing is that RDC, for example, is when you go to have your RDC, even if the plot is for one family, it's only one people name that will be on the land title. And this was creating a lot of conflict within the area. And also sometimes you hear that your brother just went somewhere and sell your land and you're not even aware of that. So it's all about this reason that they say, okay, you need to pause this and find a really nice way to to implement it within the area. And in my case, for example, something that I can suggest to them, maybe they should consider why not having many names on the land title when in the case for the whole family, something like that. So thank you. I hope I answered to your question, Peter and Anne.
Thanks, Mélika. Maybe we can go a little bit deeper into that system, because if you say that they are revising it, whoever they are, will there be involvement of people like yourselves, for example, researchers who have looked into that, or maybe even the local chiefs in explaining maybe the needs of the local people, so that the new ADC will be more conducive to land rights, especially for the more vulnerable groups? Do you see an entry point in that?
I think that's, for example, for who is going to be involved, I think local chief, I'm sure they are going to be involved, because even for this process of acquiring this RDC, they are already involved, and I mean, according to the different villages. So yes, they will be involved. For the researcher, I'm not sure. For this one, maybe I need to ask the university if they have been, maybe if the government has contacted them to conduct such kind of study. But in my case, maybe I need to publish like quickly this paper for them to also see and also have a view of what is going on, and maybe to, let's say, have a better, I would say, a better ADC, yeah, easily.
Yeah. I
So
have the
my
impression there
thought.
is a window that you can grab. A door
Yeah.
is slightly open, and if you publish your paper, and possibly in this case, it would also be. It sounds like a really good cause for a policy brief, for a brief of
Yeah.
for policymakers of your research. So to have that targeted as the process is ongoing. So that's a good example of when a policy brief might be really useful.
Okay.
Remember the course.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's just move on to other questions or contributions from the audience.
Okay,
Please, Zakaria, Abraham, welcome. And then Tina.
and myself.
And then Peter.
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful and very innovative presentation. So far, I've come across this year with regard to land tenure issues. And well done, Mélika. You have been doing well. I think we are in touch with each other for almost a few years now, and I'm following your work keenly. Yes, with regard to I'm having some few observations, but the first observation was the methodology aspect, what you mentioned, migrants and non-migrant, and I realized that you correct that version in the main write-up, in the main resource. I realized that you have changed it to immigrants and non-immigrants. So I think it's good you just define it on set so that you not have a different concept in your write-up. Because initially we saw migrants, non-migrant, and the latest part we saw immigrants and non-immigrants.
Okay.
That is my first observation with regard to that. And the second one, with regard to your results, if you check it critical, you realize that land grabbing and migration and conflict, they have a very weak relationship with agency. I was thinking generally, because I was thinking maybe when you do the segregation of the data for the migrants and migrants, men and women, there is also going to be variation, barriers that is consistent throughout. What could be the possible cause of that? If you have it, it's good to incorporate that information inside. And my suggestion also is that, is it possible to isolate that variables and do another analysis without that variable and see whether there will be a dimension change of result outcome, or you still have the same outcome of your analysis? And the last one is just an observation with regard to the methodology. I don't know, those you interview, do you also engage key informal interviews or stakeholder engagement? And if yes, have you able to incorporate the information in your write-up and as the results reflecting what the farmers are seeing in the field?
Okay, thank you.
All my questions.
Abraham,
Thank you very much.
3 questions to Mélika. I hope you took
Yeah,
note.
that's true. Yeah, I took note of. The first one was more like, yes, I will be consistent within my presentation to keep migrant and non-migrant. So yes, thank you about this. And regarding the land conflict, migration and land grabbing, conflict and migration, why you say that it's like really, we notice that it's really, let's say, low in terms of the size of the weight. This is normal because when you look at the participant that included this driver, they are low, they are more than 200, but you see that the weight is, let's say, really thin when you look at the map. And the way I saw it is because easily sometimes it's like let's say it's a double phase driver, because sometimes within a mental model it was selected as a really high level having a positive effect, and other time having a negative effect. If I take the case, for example, of conflict, some people were saying that, okay, I think that the ADC cause more conflict because within the family you have this, you have that, and other will say no. Me, I think that ADC reduces the conflict because when someone asks the ADC if there is a conflict resolution, it's easy to solve them. So it was because of this, let's say, two-layered, I would say, perception of this conflict. The same for land grabbing. It was because of that you will see that the really let's say connection among the driver were really thin. The same for land grabbing. Some people were saying that when the ADC is already there, people can easily sell your land, so you will face more land grabbing. And others will say no, it will reduce land grabbing. If someone want to come and grab your land, you can have something to prove that this land is your own. That's why we see that a lot of participants have selected them, but at the same time, it's still vain because it was, let's say, that double face, let's say, driver. And this bring me to your third comment about maybe removing the negative, I would say, weights and do another analysis to see if this is going to modify the mental model map. And I would say yes, definitely yes, because if I remove like all the negative weight and all those that you think that they are really having, let's say, double face, let's say, connection, yes, of course, the result will be really different because yes, the negative, because you sum all the weight and you divide it by the number of participants, so of course it's a mean, so yeah, you will come up with something different. And the last one about the stakeholders engagement, yes, after the data collection and all the analysis, we went on the field also to disseminate the results. So we have this stakeholder let's say consultation, also validation from the part, and also a community engagement because we went on one village, not all of them, to also disseminate the results. And we got a lot also some remark from this because some, for example, said that we needed to add more driver like inheritance, for example. And there were a debate about adding the driver of men empowerment because men say that they did not select it women empowerment because they were not concerned. So things like that. So I put it in the main manuscript also, but I didn't want to make the presentation long. That's why I don't mention it here. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. But that's also what the discussion is about, to go deeper into some of these points. Very good. Thank you. Cool. I've got Tina, then Peter, then Michael. Tina, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Mélika. Congratulations. It was a very nicely, well-presented, well-structured talk, so I really enjoyed that. I have two questions. One very short one. It just relates, how much time did you need when you came to the farmer for applying the mental model, you know, from the brief introduction until finishing it? And the longer, or the other question is, how did you select the variables you gave to the farmers? Because I understood you had like a variable called women empowerment and whatsoever, the different types. So how did you come up with that? Why did you choose them? Like, I was a bit surprised to have even to ask really explicitly for women empowerment. Yeah, if you could explain more than that, and whether that actually, like, whether farmers did have the chance to add another variable you didn't anticipate, you know, whether there were any flexibility, and how did you deal with that then? You know, maybe you didn't foresee, you know, in the end, in your mental model, seems everything ended up what you already put inside, you know, I mean, with different emphasis, but maybe something else could have occurred. So whether you anticipated that or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tina, for your questions. And for the time that it took, it was about 1 hour for the mental model and the survey. So for the explanation, because for what I did not say that before doing the main mental model exercise, we have like a, let's say, training mental model. I mean, it was just a map for them to know how to put the driver and draw the map. And once they complete this one, now they could move to the second part. So let's say if I account for all of this, it was about 30 minutes plus also, let's say, about 30 minutes for the survey. So speaking about the driver, how they were selected, we went through the literature to say, okay, how farmer perception, what is linked to land tenure security and perception as a consequence. So we ended up if I remember, with 20 drivers, and then we went on the pre-tests before the main data collection to really take the time to show it to the farmer, but it was not within the village of where we collected the data. It was in another village, also within the area, to say, okay, now we have this driver, do you think that they are relevant? And some of them, they say, no, it doesn't make sense to put this, it doesn't make sense to put that. And we remove, and finally we end up with those 12 drivers that I show here. So this mainly how. And now for the point that we did not let them the let's say the opportunity to add other drivers, because for the app doesn't allow this, but the way to, let's say, overcome it, when I did the training with my enumerator, I asked them to really ask at the end of the mental model to the participant, okay, do you think that you have something to add or a story to tell or something in particular? And usually they were saying, I think everything is covered apart from inheritance, for example, or yes, or main involvement that they wanted me to include, for example. So usually it was like that. And the fact of again the driver selection, they were selecting among the one that we suggested, also the 12. So it was not obliged for you to put all the 12 driver in your mental model map. So it was really, you can decide to put even 2 or 3, but the more you have the driver, the more it is, because for us, we're taking the time to say, okay, why did you put this driver? And they will now explain it to us. And also my enumerator, they provided me like a really nice report with all of the, let's say, unexpected driver and relation that was including within the mental model. So that's it. And thank you. I hope I answered all your questions. Yeah.
Well, just before I take Peter, just a follow-up question on this one. Oh, okay. Just a quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
Could it be that because the respondents could choose from your 12 drivers, that some of them, of course, have a higher weight than others, because like some may not have been mentioned as often, and that may then also cause an imbalance in the strength of their mention, isn't it? Did you calculate that in your analysis? Did you look at that?
No, I did not really, but I also got the same remark in Benin, and one of the sociologists, you know, how they like, let's say, interacting with the farmers. They even suggested me that maybe for the next time, I can rather have like what they call leçon de la vie. So I just I just go to the field and I ask the farmer to just tell me the story about what they think about the ADC. And once they tell me the story, I'm just based on what they said to report it as a mental model. And at the end, I would just show them and say, okay, now based on what you said, this is what I can draw. And do you think that it's okay or not, or it can be improved? And so, but yes, I might consider maybe doing this calculation to see, yeah.
More post-coding. Okay, cool. Peter just said he likes to have Michael take the first step, and then I will come, and then Adwoa will come after. Michael, go ahead.
And it's good because my question is a kind, at least in part, follow up on what Tina asked.
Thank you.
How flexible was the method in accepting additional issues? And let me now reformulate it a little bit in the sense, does your study foresee the problems for which these ADCs have been withdrawn, or where they have been? Did you find some of the issues or the arguments in your research which explain or which factor in the reasons why it has been stopped? Because that would, of course, show that it is really a valuable thing, this methodology, which I like a lot, for policy information. Obviously, that would be a very strong confirmation that you really grasp the main issues which are there. So that would be my first, let's say, an additional question. I don't know whether it's only linked to flexibility of the question or whether it's also a question of whether it is the right question that you have asked, or whether you have the impression that on this policy domain, for example, conflict within family, was that part of the understanding of conflict with others maybe? So, that would be one question. And the second one is, you mentioned that in your conclusions that you you call for more participation, and I ask myself, participation of whom for what? Of these the voices of farmers in policy making, or indeed of local people in local application of the ADCs, where I do not see so much flexibility because it's a law. So once the law has been established, there is not so much question about participation. It's more about maybe implementation or complete implementation at the local level. And the third just comment is indeed, if you think that you have relevant information for this policy processes, for the review, then of course it is really an issue of how to get it. Is it a policy brief, or you directly address maybe the local or the national level, those parliamentarians which have been involved or are involved in this, the ministry or so. Of course, that would be a wonderful occasion to participate yourself in those processes you have worked on. Okay, so that's finished.
Okay, thank you for the question, Michael, and I hope I will not forget some of them. You will let me know. So for the term of the flexibility in accepting other driver within the map, let's say that it was no more possible once the study has started. So before the study, or even after or before the test or whatever, we could have seen modify and adding more and more. Because if we were adding more driver at the same time of doing the data collection, I think that at the end we might end with I would say, biased responses, because some of the participants will have not seen the other, I would say, additional drivers, and then we are adding it maybe once the half of the data has been collected. So that will have created some bias. So that's why even when we're getting some remarks like it was good to have like inheritance or governance and so, and we're like, okay, we note it for the next time, and also it's something that we can keep in mind. Yes, for another study, why not? So in terms of the yes, sorry. Yes, you were also asking something like, okay, if within when I did the study, if I found like a reason why this ADC was also stopped, I would say yes. Because for example, for conflict that you asked, if I specify if it was intra-family conflict or community conflict, also I did not specify. So they were really free to say, okay, this one I'm talking about intra-family conflict, or let's say conflict among different households. And this is why I was able to interpret the fact that, the link from ADC to conflict were really thin, because some of them, when we were asking them, why did you put like a positive link? They were like, yeah, it's because even within my family, we're having more a conflict about this ADC. We don't know who is going to, because also it costs a lot of money. So we don't know, for example, who is going to pay for that. And once this person pay for it, okay, this person is going to, let's say, for example, I don't know, be the one that has his name on the title, because so there were a lot of, let's say, discussion around it sometime, even within the family and also outside the family, within the different community. So this also, all of this, I think I can say that I identified some of the reason when I was analyzing the result, that okay, I think that this process is going to be paused, and they will maybe trying to find a way to improve it. And this will really help me to, let's say, have, I would say, relevant information for the policy brief, for example, in the study. And so, of course, here I did not present all of the results, but there are more of other things, for example, about migration, that people were saying, I remember one farmer that he was telling me, we don't want farmers here, migrants here, because they are creating a lot of troubles. But sometimes not the case, sometimes the case, sometimes not the case. So all of this, for example, can be point to highlight in a policy brief, for example. And if it was, you also asked me if it was the right question to ask to the participants. I would say yes, and I would say no, because I don't know. That's why I got this remark telling that maybe you should have maybe just asked to the participant, okay, just tell me the story about it, and I'm just listening to you. That's also true. I noted this limitation in my discussion, because you never know, you just do the data collection, and after that you see how you could have improved it. So I will say yes, it was the right question, because you let them free to answer if it is, consequences, or good or bad consequences of having an ADC. And sometimes they were telling us, but we don't have an ADC. We say, yes, we know that some of you don't have it, but in your perceived way, do you think that if I give you like an ADC right now, what will be good for you, what will be bad for you. Like easily ask a question also, because if the question was too complicated, I think that at the end we might end up with a really low, responses, because for them to more, understand this kind of question. And I think I noted one last question, but I don't know what I noted. Sorry, did I respond to all of the? I feel like there's one, but
the last one was just beyond the policy brief. If you are confident that you have policy relevant findings, how do you think you can address policymakers?
Yes, I think I do have relevant information for them. And even also this came out when I did the dissemination workshop, and because there were also some representative of the I forgot the name of this institute, but it's the one which is leading all those RSA and so, but they sent a representative and they were like, this is really interesting, because we need something like that when it comes to, let's say, designing the policy, because usually we just take the decision, as you said, and now we realize that, okay, we could have maybe better ask the farmer on the field, But at the same time, we cannot, so there was this debate around it. So yes, I think I got relevant information for them. And that's why I need to quickly publish the paper and also work on the policy brief, because they were asking me when I was going to publish it, because they might, take the time to also read it, and why not involve it in the decision-making process. But I don't think that I can be part of it. I'm a student, so I don't think they will call me for that, but maybe they will just they will just look at the results. And
That's what I have a comment.
What are you saying, Peter?
Cool. Peter has a comment to make on that one.
Yeah, can you hear me? So your last statement is what got me reflecting. And before Michael, the question I was going to ask is the same what Michael asked. If the problem on the ground, you also saw them. And I think you could have created a niche for yourself. If the time you saw the problem, you could have written a news item on it in your country, even before the RDSA is being paused. That would have given an attention, the policymakers would have given an attention to you. Because when they pause you yourself, when you're presenting your result, you didn't know until you went to present your report. So it's a call to us as researchers. We should not only target publishing the article. If we get some relevant information which is important to policy, we should target the local news and not publish the exact results, but the news item which can actually be used by the policymakers before even publishing the full article on its own. That's just a comment I wanted to say.
Thank you. You can still do it. You could still write something now. I'm sure Peter can help you. But you're a certified knowledge manager, so you know how to do that.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for your comment, Peter. Adwoa, please go ahead. You have got your hand up.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you so much, Mélika, for the presentation. I'm just keeping an eye on the clock because we have 5 minutes. I wanted to just add like a comment. When thinking about RDSA, I think so far the discussion has been having, for instance, on Mélika's work, the agency to publish. But I think we shouldn't forget that the RDSA, it's only one of the legal instruments. So I had similar questions because it's almost like in 2024 when it had been paused. But when I go to the offices and I ask them, so has it reduced your workload? We realize that nothing has changed. So RDSA is only a legal instrument. Even the local people that we are working with, their conception of RDSA means so many different things. So when we are measuring the land to them, it's an RDSA. When there's a, let's say the government coming to do something, it's an RDSA. So I think we shouldn't restrict ourselves with, fine, it's a legal instrument, but with our conception of what really the land reform is. Because in November, I was part of an exercise in the commune of Chawu, and we were still going, they were still going about the activities, measuring it, because currently what they're trying to do is to get all state lands on the national cadastre. So I think we shouldn't lose focus thinking that, okay, the RDSA has been paused in 2024. So for instance, the information that Mélika has, or maybe there's an agency, of course there is, but one of the ways for us to also see this approach is that the land reform is ongoing. It's a legal instrument, and there are other ways. So the final to get or to attest your land is a titre foncier, which is the land title. So there are so many other ways. So if we are looking at how the locals frame it, there are so many other ways to get there. So it's not just with only this legal instrument. People can attest their land and they can still get access to whatever they need to claim or assert their land right. So I just wanted to add that we shouldn't just lose focus when we just think of the ADC in terms of the land reform in Northern Benin. Thank you.
Yes, thank you about this comment. And I also have a similar comment. And I explained to the to the one who said it that ADC, for example, is like the difference with ADC, it's more customary because there are more local chiefs involved. So I think that for titre foncier, it's also, I mean, it's the highest, I would say, in terms of land title in Benin. But people first start with the ADC because it's more accessible for them. So that's why we really thought about it. Because when you go there and you even ask about titre foncier, they'll be like, what is even titre foncier? This is really high level there. So that's why we started the ADC because we're more accessible and more, let's say, relevant for the people. So yes, thank you for this news.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions?
And just it was posted in 2025. I think it was in May 2025, not in 2024. Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Just for your information, Mélika Tan had to leave for another meeting and she left a message in the chat that she will get in touch with you separately because she still had a number of questions to you, which she could not ask. I've got a quick question if there is nobody else raising their hand at the moment. You mentioned in your conclusions that the respondents were more interested in the short-term consequences of the ADC rather than the long-term consequences. What are the short-term and the long-term consequences of the ADC? What were people more interested in than other things? I did not really get that from the presentation.
Yeah, okay. So for what I was saying, it was more like, you know, when you look at the, I mean, sorry, you don't have like the big table, so yeah, I have a better higher view, but when you look at the table, you saw that, for example, for cultural preservation, it was really less selected by the participants. So the point is that simply people don't know that, okay, when this is how we understood it, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have your ADC, you have your land title, you are in a particular area, you will stay there and you can pass this let's say land to your children, and within this area there's going to be a kind of cultural preservation within the area. But people was not perceiving this like that. They were when I was even asking at the end of the exercise, what did you not included cultural preservation, they were just like, I don't even want to include it, you know. So it's the same for environmental conservation because once you are in your area, you can still plant tree, for example, which is something that you cannot do if the land is not yours. For example, migrant, they cannot plant tree in Northern Benin, and there are other crops that they cannot grow. So, and we are a lot talking about agroforestry, for example, as a way to conserve the environment. So it's more like, okay, if you want to conserve the environment, we need somehow like one day maybe to plant tree. So if you cannot plant tree, so you will not be conserved at the long-term environment, I mean the area where you are. So this all about that we're thinking about, maybe people they're not, and also the same for infrastructure developments. So we're like, because usually when investor, the way also the village chief of Pupusira explained to us is like, usually when they want to invest in the locality, they will ask, do you have a paper? Because I don't want to invest in tomorrow. We'll have to remove everything that we put there. So it was more about it that I was saying that, okay, people, they just see like what they will eat tomorrow, food security, agricultural investment, income stability, but not really focusing on cultural preservation. That's really far away there, as they used to say. So yes, that was the idea behind.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Mita, you left a little comment also in the chat. You may say it, whatever you wrote in there, since you're here. Let's see whether Mélika agrees on that one.
Yeah, I like the methodology in the sense that usually these things are worked on by sociologists, very often by sociologists, which have which filter the answers by respondents and have their own conceptual framework. And here we have it relatively, this methodology allows to visualize and the key answers, let's say for this particular instrument, of course. Adwa is certainly right that there is more in general on land governance, but let's say for this specific instrument, you have a conceptualization of the answers that you provide. Then, of course, there is the question, is that exhaustive enough? But then you are really able to show the responses of the people on different classes, different people, which is usually more found with the economists, which are very often too much focused on this quantitative variable. So that is what I like with the methodology. It provides us with a relatively clear access to the opinions on farmers on a very specific set of answers to an option that they have, an issue that they have. That is the comment that I wanted to make. This is why I like the methodology as I understand it.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for that. And I want to say something about what you just said. Is like, for example, when we went for the pretest, we did like a really small community engagement, and sometimes the women, they were not really willing to speak a lot because their husband was around. But when we did this exercise of mental, we were like, okay, this is your thoughts. No one is going to read it. It's only you and the one who's going to analyze it right after. But no one is going to come and say this lady said that, oh, she doesn't like this, or no. So that's why they were really free to really answer on the way they have. And I remember these really old ladies. I mean, she was like facing difficulty, to put sometimes the driver on the tablet, and her sons wanted to help me and said, no, just stay there. I don't want you to help me. I will do it on my own, because she really can experience or can do whatever she wants. And that is, I mean, really true. And also that's why I also decided to go with this methodology, to really have access to people's opinion and what they really think about this ADCN. So yes, thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Tina, you want to say something?
No, I fully share what Michael said. And actually, I wanted to say beforehand, I was very happy that you disaggregated really along intersectional lines with women and men and the migrants and non-migrants. So I was really, really happy to see that. And just learning from your small anecdote, that's also really nice how also even elderly women saw it as kind of empowerment to use the tablet. So they're really cool.
Cool. Thank you, Mélika. That was a very inspiring presentation and discussion today. And I think we all took a lot with us. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good holiday season. Have a good start of the new year, and see you next year in full strength.